In the late 1990s, New York bought a huge chunk of wilderness in the central Adirondacks from the Whitney family. You may have paddled there on Lake Lila, Little Tupper Lake, both hugely popular places. And ever since, environmentalists have dreamed of something even bigger, adding another massive chunk of Whitney family land to the Adirondack Forest Preserve, adjacent to that first parcel. Well, it looks like it won't happen. News broke yesterday that it's to be sold to a Texas developer for a luxury resort. The details on today's Story of the Day.
Support for Story of the Day comes from Morja Wealth Management, serving the North Country for 3 generations. MorjaWM.com. Securities offered through Hightower Securities, LLC, member FINRA, SIPC. Hightower is an SEC-registered investment advisor. And Kinney Drugs, now offering specialized home medical equipment and supplies. Learn more at kinneyhomecare.com.
Hey, I'm David Sommerstein. It's Tuesday, June 3rd. First up, Governor Kathy Hochul has her first opponent for next year's Democratic gubernatorial primary. Her own lieutenant governor, Antonio Delgado, announced yesterday he plans to challenge Hochul for the state's top job. Jung-Yoon Han for the New York Public News Network reports.
Delgado, who is Hochul's number 2, ended months of speculation on Monday by announcing in a video that he would challenge Hochul in next year's gubernatorial primary.
What we need right here in New York is bold, decisive, transformational leadership.
Delgado, who formerly represented the 19th Congressional District in New York, became the first Afro-Latino New Yorker to serve as lieutenant governor in 2022. But for the past year, he suggested that Hochul and the National Democratic Party lack a vision for progressive politics, and he announced earlier this year that he would not run with her for her re-election bid. Delgado, a Rhodes Scholar and Harvard Law School graduate, says he's running to make housing more affordable and expand both healthcare and childcare, and he said he would defend New York against President Donald Trump's policies. The governor's office has said in recent months that Delgado would have been replaced on the ticket regardless. In Albany, I'm Jung-Yoon Han for the New York Public News Network.
Forest rangers in the Adirondacks have been busier with more rescues since Memorial Day. In the last week, they've helped get hikers and paddlers safely out of the woods. Emily Russell has those details.
The biggest rescue of the week happened last Tuesday. A 26-year-old woman from the Southern Tier was hiking in the High Peaks. She was about 3 miles into the woods when she broke her leg in multiple spots. 8 forest rangers and a paramedic hiked in to meet the woman. They stabilized her leg and then carried her the 3 miles back to the trailhead. The whole rescue occurred in the dark, and rangers carried the woman over unstable ground and through some ankle-deep water. That same day, a few other rangers were called to the Lake Durant campground in Hamilton County. They evicted a group of young campers and ticketed them for underage alcohol possession and leaving a fire unattended. There were also 2 rescues on Friday. A man in his 50s from the Syracuse area lost the trail up Mount Joe. Rangers helped guide the man out. Friday night, people were camping at a lean-to in Long Lake and got stranded after damaging their boat. Rangers brought them back to shore. Finally, on Saturday, 2 hikers called for help crossing Roaring Brook on Giant Mountain. Rangers walked the group back to the trailhead. Emily Russell, North Country Public Radio.
A developer from Texas is set to purchase a 36,000-acre estate in the heart of the Adirondacks near Long Lake. The property was formerly owned by Saratoga socialite Mary Lou Whitney. She left it to her husband, John Hendrickson, who died last summer. It was on the market for $125 million. The developer plans to build a luxury resort, which environmentalists say is a devastating loss to the park's forest preserve. The Adirondack Explorer's Jim O'Dado spoke with developer Sean Todd and broke the story yesterday. He shared the details of his reporting with Emily Russell.
So from your conversation with Chairman Sean Todd, what are his hopes and intentions for the Whitney property?
What his intentions for this property and also for Katy Hill in Saratoga Springs, which he's also under contract to purchase, the mansion where Mary Lou Whitney and John Hendrickson lived, is to try to maximize, not totally maximize, but maximize the investments. That is to make them destinations that other people can use to bring in golfing opportunities, fine dining, potentially a hotel, lodging, and make it available to people who want to experience the Adirondacks. He's likened it to the Point on Upper Saranac Lake, which is an exclusive kind of great camp setting with everything available to you that you can imagine, and beauty and splendor. He's starting with a pretty good start because there's already two beautiful great camps on that property, including Deerlands, which has got 17 bedrooms and 11 bathrooms, and other cabins, and another great camp that John Hendrickson purchased not that long ago.
So Whitney Park is in a pretty remote part of the Adirondacks. When you were talking to Sean Todd, do you get the sense that he understood that? The Point on Upper Saranac Lake is just a lot closer to an airport and amenities and things like that. So how realistic is it that he's going to be able to, a developer is going to be able to bring in and build the infrastructure and hire the workers and attract the visitors to make this a reality?
Yeah, that business plan of his, he hasn't shown it to me. I understand what you're saying because that is a remote area. The nearest town is Long Lake, and it has 800 inhabitants or something like that. But he thinks that there could be some opportunities. For instance, he thinks that a workforce that might work at Saratoga Springs and or at Whitney Park could interact, perhaps move about each location. He thinks that the airport near Saranac Lake is a good feeder, and the Albany airport is a good feeder to get people into the Adirondacks to Saratoga Springs, perhaps as a stopover on their way up. He wants to build some employee housing. So he thinks that perhaps he can get some students from Paul Smith College or elsewhere, some chefs, some groundskeepers who will see this is a pretty unique opportunity and might be interested in being part of it. But yeah, it's his sell and it's his challenge. But you're right, it is a challenge. I mean, existing employers have a difficult time enough finding and retaining workers.
What have you heard from environmentalists about this news? That's something that they've been pushing the state to protect the 36,000 acres for years now. So what have you heard about that?
Well, it's been a letdown. 8 environmental groups wrote to Kathy Hochul, the governor, shortly after John Hendrickson passed away last summer. They gave it a little bit of time and then wrote a letter to Albany saying, hey, please, Governor Hochul, do what you can to try to take possession of this unique parcel. It is the last great private holding available in the Adirondacks. And according to Edward Hendrickson, he had never heard a word from the state during the time that he's been in charge of the property. And he said he spoke to John, his brother, just about every day. And John never got approached by the state either. And the property's been available for sale for several years. So the environmental community is dejected and somewhat disappointed in state government as well, because they didn't act. But however, I'm not so sure that they would have been successful because John was not thrilled with the idea of having Whitney Park in the hands of the state government.
That was Jim O'Donnell, contributing editor with the Adirondack Explorer magazine, speaking with Emily Russell. You can find a link to O'Donnell's story at our website, ncpr.org. More news there all the time, ncpr.org. Music today by Caitlin Scholl of Lake Placid and the Buskers Band of Alexandria Bay. I'm David Sommerstein, North Country Public Radio.